Hey everybody, welcome back to Ravenstead. It's time for another build. I'm going to build a well here for a village, a little town well. I'll lay out the base here. I've got a piece of 1/2 inch foam, kind of get a little shape to it here. And then I'm going to use a craft knife here. I don't cut myself, so don't worry about that. I'm just going to whittle away this foam to give it kind of a more natural shape. Most of my scatter terrain, is at least on a 1/2 inch base, sometimes thicker pieces. I try and whittle the edges down, give them some undercuts to kind of lower the profile. This piece I wanted to make sure I had a little playable area for a miniature to go on. And then I've extended that blade all the way out, and it's brand new, so it's super sharp. That's really important when you're cutting this foam to get a nice clean cut. And then to kind of blend those cuts in, I'm going to use a little brass brush and a ball of aluminum foil here and get some texture in. I'm going to press pretty hard with this aluminum foil. One, I'm trying to get a nice deep texture, and also I just wanted to make kind of smush the piece down a little bit. There we go. Now we'll start building up the walls of the well. I'll just hot glue this on. That allows me to work a little quicker. If I weren't trying to turn out a piece in like a day, I could use PVA glue. It's a little more forgiving. You're kind of under the gun here with the hot glue. You got to work pretty quickly, so I just shoot a short bead and then put in a few bricks. So just be patient and just tap in a little thin bead of glue right here. Start adding in those bricks. Had a little static electricity here going on with these bricks. If you guys know a trick on how to get the static out of these foam blocks, I'd love to hear that. Leave me a comment. I was thinking maybe a dryer sheet might work. I don't know. I'm going to process up some lumber for the roof over the well, and the village has got some pesky little kids that like to try and fall into the well, so they're going to cover that up. It'll also hide that the well is not a real well. And I have learned, slowly but surely, to black bomb the areas that I'm not going to be able to get to later on. Almost forgot. It makes things a little easier. So we'll just go ahead and clad up the top of this well, and then we'll start building the structure and the roof over top. That's going to be our rotten plank. If you've seen any of the other videos, you know that that's a pretty common feature in my builds. Got to have that rotten plank. So a couple of posts and a ridgepole, and then I'll build up some rafter frames here. Get a bunch of those made up and glue them on, and then I got to make some shingles. So I'm gonna, once I get this built up, I'm gonna cut some strips of chipboard and then use a technique that I picked up from another crafter here on YouTube. A lot of clever people out there, great ideas. So don't be afraid to borrow. Give credit where credit's due. I got this one from Eric's Hobby Workshop. A clever dude. I don't know if he came up with it or got it from somewhere else, but it works. So you just make cuts in the chipboard, bend each piece forward and back, and then glue them on from the bottom to the top, just like you would be laying in a real roof. This is a little flimsy, so I had to go back and cobble in some cross braces to stiffen that up. So I guess the peasants in this village aren't the best carpenters, but they got the job done. No worries. Up goes the roof, and then we'll need a little ridge cap. So I just cut a long strip of chipboard, scored it with a knife, got a nice clean bend in it. And I kind of imagine that as just being a piece of flashing or something up there. It kind of plays once I paint it all up. Alright, So we're going to black bomb this out with a mixture of Mod Podge and black acrylic paint. And that'll also help to stiffen it up too. Gives us our good shadows for dry brushing. Really got in there on the bricks, kind of fill in those gaps. And scrubbed it into the roofing pretty well too. And that, like I said, it stiffens things up. So that goes on. Once that's dry, I'll start doing some dry brushing. And we'll get our base colors in here. Start by dry brushing out the wood. That's a medium brown. You know, when I first started, I was using really small brushes and trying to pick out details and keep it really super clean. But I have noticed that if you just kind of keep your color values close, you can just go for it. And it makes your builds a lot faster. It's a light brown. I'm going over that. It looks really stark right now, but once it dries and then you get different colored washes over top of it, it all just blends in. So you just kind of have to trust the process. But you need all of those shadows and those highlights. You know, you see here, I'm just scrubbing that gray right in there, touching the wood here and there, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. All those colors just kind of blend in. There we go. Little highlights on the base. Now, I didn't imagine that there'd be a big rock right in the middle of a village that the well was dug into. So I'm going to dry brush a little green color on here onto the base, and then put some flocking on there to make it look a little grassier. So that's a really light beige color. I'm just going over the whole piece. And then here a light green. That'll give us our grassy undertones and kind of a mossy look on the roof. Now, I told you guys not to worry about it, but I got a little worried when I was doing this part because it was really green. But I knew that I would be going over it with some washes that would dull that down. So it's okay to have those bright colors. There goes the wash. You'll see it just changes the value of that whole piece. That's a little bit of burnt umber acrylic ink mixed with water, about 50-50. I put a couple drops of jet dry in there, and that'll help to break down the surface tension, make sure it flows across the piece. That's a little Vallejo rust wash. I'm just dabbing that on here and there. Maybe the nails that they put the roofing on have started to rust. And that metal up top, that's rusting up too. Just kind of leaching down across the roof. Little green wash will let this piece dry completely. All the washes I did wet on wet, so everything kind of blends in. But when we go to put the flocking on, we want a dry piece. There's that rotten plank on the sides coming along. I'm just going to put a little PVA glue here and there and sprinkle on some fine flocking. This Woodland Scenics fine flocking. I just wanted a hint of moss on that roof. I didn't want it too mossy. There we go. Just a little touch here and there. Then I'll scrub on some more of that PVA glue. That's just straight out of the bottle. And I'll just put it wherever I want grass. Sprinkle that flocking on, knock off the excess, and that should give us a good grassy area. And if it's not enough, you can go over it with a medium flocking to give it a little bit more texture. For that, I don't want to paint glue over top of the fine flocking that I already have, so I'll use this watered down PVA glue. It's just 50-50 mix, PVA and water. And then just tap on some of that medium flocking. There we go. That gives us a little texture. So now we get to kind of bring this piece alive with some foliage. Got some little flowers there on a piece of static grass that I made. I like to move along with my builds, so I use a lot of hot glue, so I end up picking up all those little glue strings. But, you know, it's no big deal. Put in some lichen. I kind of use foliage to hide my mistakes, too. If I've got a glob of glue or something like that. Covered up. Alright guys, let me show you this piece. I'm going to spin it for you. You can get a closer look. This is the village well. There's that rotten plank. Yeah, buddy, we got to have that. Yeah, somebody did not do a very good job with the carpentry on this. But you know what? It works. The water's cold. Pretty pleased with that roof. That turned out alright. That's a great technique. I don't think this situation is going to turn out too well. No pun intended. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.